Hey guys, DibtheAwesome here to give you another Monster Legends Guides, where we talk about monsters' moves, rune sets, partners, all that jazz. Today we are talking about Bright, who is going to be part of the Zodiac Maze event. Now I'm doing this video because Armor's kind of beating me with like the first two Zodiac monsters, so I thought it would be funny if I did the next two, or like we haven't organized like we do this at the same time. But I kind of wanted to, I'm behind and I kind of wanted to do these ones first. So we're going to talk about Bright first, and then we're going to talk about Virtue. But yeah, we're going to talk about that. But yeah, let's get back to the guide. Bright is a supportive monster, is light supportive. It has a lot of interesting mechanics, and we'll kind of express that as we go on. Now, I will say she is a water monster's best friend, but anything that's basically immune to freeze. So things like Lord Mammoth, things like Atonia Carney, all those monsters, like anything that's any water attacker that's immune to freeze is this thing's best friend. It really is. And I think you can build around the idea of giving them both ruses, even if they didn't, like any monster, if they didn't have like stun immunity or freeze immunity, she has the option to give both, I think. So let's just get right to it. So her power is 3,124. Realistically, this really doesn't matter too much because she isn't a damage dealer. She is a buffer. She's a she plays the slot of the extra guy on the team. It's going to range from another offensive monster to a support. So this is a support. So yeah, you treat it like that. This life, this 27,143. It's alright life. It fills the purpose. She does have an AoE heal, so she kind of heals like nature monsters do. Kind of picking up a page from them. I think she has like multiple heals though. I think like that was the thing. I think it had a lot of single target healing. But we'll see that later on in her kit maybe. So like the life is 27k, which is alright. It's acceptable life. The speed is 3,465. This is a remarkably high speed. I just imagine people shoving full speed on it, or full team speed, and that's totally fine. You can totally do that. Or at least I think people put at least one solid speed and then two team speed. I think that's at least the consensus. I'm saying in terms of the PvP arena format style of Team War. This is usually, you will see this later in, as soon as you hit a certain mark in the game. This is like the top players, the top, top of the teams, top of the food chain of the competitive scene. There's a medium low level of competitive scene. This is the community competitive, where you can be kind of variety of what you want. Every team plays out differently. Usually you see like maybe a few people run really high in loons, but the rest of the team like run the average Joe life, like level 5 runes. So you can see creative builds perhaps, or just different idea comps. In the later game, this is the PvP arena scene. I haven't described these two areas yet because I'm getting into that in a video. This one's just really like, if you ever played PvP at level 100, you see these idea of full team speed. They're taking advantage of the system, that kind of play style. I'm really interested to see how, like, I won't ever be able to see it, but I wonder how she plays out in that kind of beat 'em up sense. I don't have any idea how well she plays out. People might still just wind up using Demise over Bright. That might still be a thing, or just like other like I don't really know. I don't really know what they'll do in the end. But her speed is really respectable at 3,465. She doesn't have a stun. I can see how this plays out. I can see this. If you do wind up putting full speed on her, I imagine that you can slap on an immunity, whatever immunity the situation calls for. And I think you're set. It's kind of like the same concept with Goran. You don't have any deny, but you're more so there to protect a single ally, or you're more so make sure that ally gets a turn in. I'm seeing that kind of concept with her, based on what I looked over on her kit. Now, her trait is immunity to harden, which also means she is not immune to a specific deny. This is both a good and bad thing. She's basically like partially immune to everything in the game. She has a 20% less likely to get hit by it, but she's not a full immunity. Balance deals massive light damage to all enemies, heals by 30%, and removes all negative effects from target. requires no cooldown, and it's a 60 damage move. Obviously, the damage is really relevant. The healing's really nice. It says, it says 30%, but it says 10%. I really hate the wording in the game. I'm assuming it is 30%. I'm guessing it's 10% for each dot of 3 times. And it removes all your, debuffs. So this can come up in handy. This is really great in terms of light wars because people run Invarf, people run the AoE blind, AoE daze, the weak to all special damage plus light damage move. So I can see this being pretty relevant in that sense. I can see this pretty great. We're going to talk about everything in skill groups 1. We're just going to talk about, I usually don't talk about skill group 1 moves, but we're just going to talk about them because they give up specific event effects for like single target, single target oriented stuff. Water Pitcher. Target heals by 20%, gives immunity to burn, poison, and nightmares to ally. This is really interesting. It's a nice little neat thing. This is something you may have an option to. Pretty much makes you immune to all DOTs to a specific person. So like your tank, for example, you slap this on your tank. This is the sole reason why you put this move on there. So things like Oros, things like your Gorin, if you run Gorin, like the community competitive scene. But if you're doing the PvP arena, you won't see Gorin at all. People in that scene just hate Gorin. that's the realization I've seen, or at least people from that area don't like Gorin. They usually just stick with Oros or Atum. Those are the only 2 earth monsters that stick to them, but you get my point. You put this on your tank. That's pretty much my point. This calls for really good creativity. I think this can call for, if you're in early tanky comps, this is a good move this is a neat move to put on it. Arrogant Sun, or Argnot Sun. Deals moderate special damage, heals by 20%, requires a cooldown of 2 turns. Damage is fairly low. It's 27 stamina. Basically, this is just a sustainability move. Maybe you could put this on like a tank set. I have no idea how good this is. Probably not a very good move in the sense of, you're not really there to you can, I guess you can build a tanky comp. If you really wanted to build a really tanky one and just annoy the crap out of the enemy, you could run this move. It's an option, but it's probably not the best move to run. So things with like AoE life, I will say this goes in conjunction with things like AoE life regen. You have that option too. Ganymedes Jar. Target heals by 20%, may apply damage boost to ally, requires a cooldown of a single turn. That's nice healing. It's nice healing. The stamina cost is meh though. Yeah, it's just a heal. It's a heal move. If you wanted to add a single target heal, not the highest move, it's probably not worth running. It's just a little neat thing you could do. Nile Flood. Nile Flood. No, it's Flood. Yeah, Flood. Flood. Yeah, I don't know if I think it's Flood. Deals moderate nature damage, heals by 20% of all team, requires cooldown. I think this is the one you run. It says 20%, but the thing the effect says 30%. It's always something that always bothers me is their wording is always wrong, and I don't know why they don't ever fix the things they word wrong. They never do, but that's the thing. Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux deals moderate special damage, gives immune to possession to all allies, requires cooldown of 2 turns, 28 stamina, and it does a damage of 45. This is huge. You put this, if you run a defensive comp, if you put this up with things like Oros, or if you do if you're in community competitive and you see like a Gorin and you see it with this monster, this is why. It's so you don't get possessed. So as a safety measure, it goes. I will say this move goes really great with Gorin and Oros because they're already immune to stun, they're already immune to freeze. So having this on them is really, really nice. It's not like It's not like in terms of scribe. It's not the scribe. It's not like the scribe AOE. It makes them immune to dark damage. Immune to dark damage too, which also helps them a lot. But this helps. This also helps. It's not as good as scribes, but it's really great. It's still really great. That is the only moment you do use this move. It's for those specific monsters, or like that specific comp if it calls for it. You may use it for other stuff too. That's totally to your pleasure. It's a move you may run depending on your playstyle. Deals moderate light damage, gives damage increased to all allies, requires a cooldown of 2 turns, 28 stamina, 40 damage, and it gives a damage boost for 2 turns. What's the scaling? Is that it's probably 25? I imagine it just being like 50%. This is kind of irrelevant. I wouldn't recommend this move, just because you just put double damage on your. You usually focus on your damage on your damage dealer. You don't really need to focus on AoE damage increase. You just need to focus on your main damage. I'm assuming you're doing that, so that's probably a good idea. Arrow's favorite deals target heals by 30%, gives immunity to stun, requires cooldown. This gives gives immunity to stun to the ally too, wherever you use this on. This goes great with water monsters or anything immune to freeze, like Hercule. Hercule's the best partner for this thing. I will say this: if you have Hercule, pair it up with this person, and you'll have such an awesome time. Because that is Hercule's two main, that's one of Hercule's two major weakness is stamina drain, like 100%, and stunning. Those are his only two. Realistically, everything else he doesn't have to worry about because he gets an extra turn and it removes all. He has a move that gives an extra turn, removes all negative effects. He sets him up really nice. It also goes in junction well with his heal. He also has a healing, so this stacks with that target heal. Plus, he now has immunity to stun. So he's virtually speaking, he's pretty much unstoppable if you use as Arrow's favorite and Castro and Pollux. If you use these two in conjunction, they have no way of denying Hercule at this point. Hercule is undeniable. I will say again, if you have Hercule or any other water monster that is, you can make them immune to possession and stunning. This is huge. Do keep this in mind when you're doing your comps. This is huge. Honestly, this is huge. You are not immune to advanced possession and advanced stunning, of course, but you're immune to the common stuff. So if you bring this to war, if you bring this to stuff that rely on just plain stunning or plain possession, you're in a really good spot. You are in a phenomenal spot at the moment. Shamshash scales deals heavy special damage. Heavy. So heavy. Heavy. This is some really heavy. It's 45 damage. Who makes the words for these games? Who makes these terms? What's considered heavy damage? It's 45 damage. It's not heavy. But anyway, back to seriousness. This deals heavy special damage, gives immunity to freeze to all team, so requires cooldown. So basically, you could pair this up with something that's either immune to freeze or stun. That also works. Or possession. In fact, any monster that's immune to freeze and stun or possession, you can pair it up with this thing and she can patch up the rest of the things you're not immune to. Which is interesting. This is basically a kind of a nerfed version. It's kind of a nerfed version of like Calyx AoE that makes you immune to freeze and stun. It's a small nerf version of Scribe's AoE to immune to possession because it also gives you immunity to dark moves. Which, dark is a huge attack category in terms of offensive players to use. Because you got Barbatos and Razul. But yeah, you get, it has it though. So if you do run things like Calyx, if you do run things like Monster Diva or anything, AoE, the things that give AoE immunity, you finish that up with immunity to possession, and you're immune to all form of deny. Except, I will say the only thing that this does not cover is 100% stamina drain. So things like Thedes and Frostbite. That's its huge weakness. It's totally the problem. That's its only problem, actually. In terms of supporting, this guy's a nice extra guy supporter. Kind of like, it's interesting because of, this is interesting though. I'm gonna finish. I just come to the realization, but I'm gonna finish talking about all this stuff. Just all this stuff first. Ram Charuj. Ram Charuj. I have no idea. I'm autistic. Ram Charuj. Yeah, it's Ram. Gives double damage and stun immunity to ally. Requires cooldown. But yeah, it gives double damage to a single target and stun immunity. This is kind of why you more so lean towards a water denier. I mean, like a thing that's immune to water immunity. Freeze immunity. So water attackers or Hercule specifically because of this. It gives you double damage and immune to stun. realistically speaking, in a beat 'em up scene, if you just use this move, everything's dead at this point anyway. As soon as that attacker moves, they're just done anyway. You can this helps you in the event, just like save grace in the event that you're not for some reason faster than the enemy, and they wind up doing an AoE stun. Like their only form of deny is the AoE stun, and this could save you. I mean, like it could save your attacker, so you can go on that turn and just instantly kill everything. And in the sense of PvP arena format, team war competitive scene, this is again late game. It's the late game big boy mainstream of strategy. This is the only strategy they abide by. Like both teams only play this kind of scene. Specific monsters, the best monsters, the best moves, everything else can screw off. That kind of scene. Yeah, this is yeah, that's that. So overall, Braid is a really great monster. Runes, real quick, you can either go full speed, you're focusing on mainly denying them of denying you or specific monsters specifically, or you may run team speed, like 2 team speed and a speed rune. That speed rune is just so you can stay with the enemy denier, really. But yeah, that's really all there is to it, to this monster, in terms of the concept. Her main concept is to heal plus give immunity to your allies, and plus her too. So now she's like immune to freeze and no possession. A lot of stuff actually. I think the only thing she does not cover is blinding and daze. If you can pair it up with a monster that gives immunity to blinding and daze, you're in a really good spot. It's really interesting. Now, this was the thing I was thinking of while I was making this. Just like near the end of this, I said, "Oh, well, oh wait, I just realized something." This is why. I just realized Vanos does pretty much the same thing. I mean, like, where he has like his whole arsenal is to give immunity to everything in the game. So it is interesting that we're getting another monster that gives immunity to everything in the game, which is, I mean, it's really interesting. It's really cool. Or at least we're getting a lot of these monsters that give immunity to, like, the denies of this game. We didn't usually get that before, in all honesty. We haven't had that before, where there are monsters that give resistance to, like, whole resistances to everything. Or at least there was like a select few. There's like Kalik, Sarah, and Monster Device. There was at least 3 before that, but we're getting more now in different categories. We have one for metal now, and we have one for light. This is huge. So, you have different forms of denying denies, and this is interesting. Her main weakness, I will say, is just not being naturally immune to all deny to begin with. I think that's her glaring weakness. She herself is not immune to deny, but she is naturally faster. I mean, like, she's got a really decent speed. I think she has a lot of can compete with a lot of mainstream deniers. I feel like in the beat 'em up scene, the top tier competitive scene, I imagine people still using things like demise, like only using things like demise, or like, just things that end the match quickly, because they usually don't have to worry about immunity. I mean, they don't usually have to worry about like being denied themselves because they pick their fights. It's the fights they for sure will outrun and win. Because everybody's running tanks. People aren't running tank monsters at this point. They're running really glassy ones, or their style of format is really glassy, and they're really just focusing on killing at this point. I can see this monster being on like really interestingly, like there's like the tank monsters like a Tomb or Oros. I can see it being paired up with that, but that's probably the only point you'll probably ever see this thing, maybe in terms of that scene. Now, in terms of community competitive, the lower to middle class of Team War players, you might see this thing a lot, and it's going to be really interesting. I think this is going to be a really fun monster to play around with, to try with different monster pairings, like things like Plymouth, or things that give like AoE life regen, to being immune to freeze and stun, like things like Oros and Gorin, and a Tomb, and what else monster? What else? What are other Earth monsters? Like other Earth monsters, for sure. Now, Trilops isn't used a lot. I imagine that going really well with those. I mean, those two together, because he does have he has a move to give a random chance to give her a shield. I'm thinking of really like a diversity of comps, which you can use with Bright, because she is a very dynamic character. You can use this with things that are not immune to stun and freeze. I will say that she counters a lot of water monsters. She counters Frostbite, and she counters. She kind of, she's faster than Thetis, but I'm not gonna say she really counters her just because of the AoE stamina drain. And most people have her to 130 at this point. But yeah, you get my sense. She outspeeds a lot of mainstream deniers. She even has the same speed as them, which is huge. she has the exact same speed as all the mainstream deniers in terms of like possessor, magic deniers, water denier, like things like Kale. I don't know if Gavin Fish runs this speed. He's probably slower, but she gives immunity. You get the point. Like, if she goes before the denier and she picks the right one for the right situation, you're in a really good spot. You're immune to their main form of denying you. And in like community competitive, you will see people trying to do the whole PvP aspect, except they're running lower level runes. They're running level 5 runes, which is a huge difference between level 10 runes. It doesn't work out as well as that. So yeah, I can imagine that being really great. Overall, really nice competitive monster. If there's, I gotta explain. Well, for partners, in all honesty, you can pretty much pair it up with anything, because this was designed to do literally anybody. Whoever you want to use, you can pair it up with this monster. Obviously, maybe like the formal setup of a damage dealer and a denier of your choice. That's totally up to you. What was I gonna say? Did I say runes yet? I don't know if I have. Yeah, I can't remember if I missed anything else on this monster. But overall, this is a really decent monster. You should probably try and get her during this time of this event. A really solid one. A really, really nice one. So yeah, I'm DibtheAwesome. I'll catch you guys later.